I told you a little bit about my friend and mentor, Gustavo Parajon. He epitomized, I think, the best of religious authority. He lived the model of American Baptist missions, which makes me proud to be an American Baptist and proud to give my mission money. In American Baptist mission life, one does not go to the mission field with an agenda in mind to start a church, to start this kind of movement, but rather to be there and be present, to hear the concerns of the people, and then responding to those concerns, working alongside them. This is what I saw Gustavo do for 40 or 50 years. When there was an earthquake in 1972, and money wasn't going out to the rural people, he called together all of the other religious people, all of the other Protestant religious people, what are called evangelicals down there, and got them to say, let's pull together an organization to help out the victims and help in the development of people and help to rebuild, because it became quite clear that the ruling government was pocketing money that had come forward and using it only for the rich and the elite. And so they created CEPAD, the Evangelical Center for Aid and Development, which became later the Nicaraguan Council of Churches, and it became the major non-governmental organization that was able to use all that religious authority to help people have better lives. I told you that he founded a program called Providenic to help rid the country of polio and measles and reduce infant mortality and teach people basic hygiene and basic ways to be able to keep people safe. He was given the Edwin Dahlberg Peace Award by the American Baptist. Edwin Dahlberg was a peacemaker and a resistor in World War II, and also a member of University Baptist Church in the 1920s. He was the vice president of the Baptist World Alliance, was one of the main speakers at the Global Baptist Peace Conference, and you'd never know it from just talking with him because he never put up airs. He was always someone who helped you figure out who you were as a child of God. He was a prophetic preacher, pastor of First Baptist Church of Managua, and I had the honor of spending many months actually, in his home in Nicaragua, sitting on his back porch in a rocking chair, wondering what I was going to do with the rest of my life, and working out this nagging calling to the ministry that I had, and he very gently helped me to articulate that and to find a way that I could see that ministry lived out in a local church. After I went to seminary and started working in the church, I could no longer afford to go down to Nicaragua all the time like I had done before I went to school. And I remember confessing to Gustavo one time that I had felt like I had been shirking my responsibilities because I had been such a great activist for Central America, and I found that I didn't have the time to do that. And he said, Douglas, what you're doing, you're working for justice in inner city Hartford. You're working for justice with all these people. Wherever you work for justice, you are doing the work of God. Don't worry about not doing enough for us. Just keep doing the work for justice. My friends, it's healthy to be suspect of religious authorities. And yet it's also incumbent upon each of us to claim our own religious authority. It comes directly to each one of us as a gift from God. The only question is, how are we going to use that religious authority that is given to us as a gift from God? How are we going to claim what we know to be true? How are we going to claim that we are children of God? How are we going to complain that all people deserve a right and a place at the table? How are we going to affirm the dignity of all people? How are we going to live into Jesus' great commission to make disciples of all nations, his great commandment to love God with all of our heart, our soul, our mind, and our strength, and to love our neighbor as ourself, and the great criteria, whenever you saw it unto the least of these, whenever you did it unto the least of these, you did it unto me. Whenever you did not do it unto the least of these, you did not do it unto me. How are we going to be a thermometer instead of a thermostat? How are we going to be a thermostat instead of a thermometer? How are we going to risk the temptation to just go along to get along? How are we going to risk the temptation to deny the radical implications of the gospel of Jesus Christ? That's the Lenten question for all of us. That's the Lenten conundrum. And yet, we are here together, all seeking this out and all ready to sing the songs of God. We are here together to proclaim the good news. Sure, we might get put in jail, but others have gone to jail before us. We might be understood because of it, but others have been understood before. We might be persecuted, but blessed are those who are persecuted. We will never be left alone by God in the midst of all of this for living the gospel. That's what it's really all about, living the gospel. So how about it, my friends? Are you going to claim your religious authority? If you do, and when you do, it will be good news indeed. Amen.